teach saxophone and clarinet with Your Space Music Lessons. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to start notes using your tongue, something called tonguing. All wind instruments use a system called tonguing, and it helps us to start each note clearly. Initially, when you made your first sounds on the clarinet and saxophone, you probably did it simply by blowing air into the instrument and then listening to the note that was produced. But most notes should be started with your tongue lightly hitting near the tip of the reed, as if you were saying the word T. If you have several notes in a row, it is as if you were saying T, 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 T into the instrument while you're blowing. Although tonguing will feel a bit weird, a bit unnatural, once you start training yourself how to do it properly, then it will feel completely normal, natural, and you will start to do it subconsciously. So I recommend you teach yourself how to tongue actually without your instrument at all at first. So you should hopefully already have a good embouchure and know how the clarinet or saxophone should be in your mouth in the first place. And then practice blowing air, and as you blow, saying the words T, 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 T. Now as you do it, you'll feel a bit silly, but as you do it, your air should blow non-stop like an air hose. Your tongue will interrupt the airstream, but you should push the air continuously with your blowing muscles. Now, this is going to feel strange because our body naturally likes to put a pause in our airstream after each word that we speak. But concentrate on your airstream as a whisper and whisper T, 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 to make sure that you're not stopping or changing your airstream through the exercise. Once you can do that without an instrument, then try it with the mouthpiece in your mouth. And shape your embouchure, your mouth as usual, however you would do that for your clarinet and saxophone. And then actually speak the words T, 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 T into your mouthpiece. Okay, so like this. It will seem very silly, but notice that your tongue is now hitting the reed instead of the top of your mouth. This is what you want your tongue to do when you're playing the notes on the clarinet or on the saxophone. Notice where your tongue hits the reed. It should be hitting near the tip if you're doing it properly. We don't want it to be hitting lower down on the mouthpiece. It should be near the tip, and it should sort of almost tickle or just feel slightly sort of strange on the tip of your tongue, so you should be aware that you're doing it. When your tongue hits the reed, it stops the reed vibrating instantly, and that gives you the clear distinction between each note. If your tongue wanders too far down the reed, so down here, then the reed won't close properly, and you'll feel as though you're hitting the reed, but the sound will be indistinct, like you're mumbling. So if you put the mouthpiece in your mouth, and you should be ensuring that when you're saying that your tongue is touching the tip of the reed. That's really important. So a great warm-up exercise for tonguing is whispering into the clarinet, focusing on having your steady airstream, and making sure as you gradually increase your airspeed and getting your good embouchure that the airstream remains steady and there shouldn't be pauses in between the notes. So a big challenge when you start tonguing is that it's natural for the airstream to pause on every note. You're probably doing this at the moment, and this causes the tone to fuzz a bit. If this is happening, think about your tongue is merely interrupting an unstoppable stream of air by gently touching the reed. Nothing else should move or change, and this does take concentration. So another problem when people learn to tongue is you might move your jaw. So it can be useful sometimes to practice in front of a mirror, and then make sure you don't have sort of an up and down sort of chewing motion when you're doing it, otherwise you're probably going to squeak quite a lot. It's really important that you keep that good embouchure that you've learnt, and that you keep that, and it's your tongue that's moving and not your whole mouth. Finally, the other bad habit that people who are self-taught often have is sort of fake tonguing, where they kind of learn a way of stopping and starting notes without using their tongue on the reed to do this. Instead, they sort of do it with their throat, and this can have quite an unpleasant effect on the sound, but also it can be quite difficult to reteach yourself and learn how to do it properly. When you start to get good at tonguing and you've got a good embouchure, you'll find the playing is so much easier as well, and breathing is so much easier too. So it is worth, when you're learning and at those early stages, dedicate some time and invest time in practicing tonguing, firstly without the instrument and then with the instrument, but being very aware of it. Even if you get notes wrong for a while as you're trying to read the music, it's more important at the early stages to try and get a handle on tonguing and doing it properly, because once you've learned to process right or wrong, it's hard to alter it because it becomes more subconscious. So that's just my little tips about saxophone and clarinet tonguing, the importance of it, especially to beginners, but also as more advanced players. Reassess it, look back at it, especially if you've been self-taught, got to a good level and then taken tuition. Often the basics aren't always quite as good as you want them to be. So it's always good to reflect and think back and test your technique. Okay, happy practicing.